Come help me when you have a sec.
Okay, we are now live streaming. So mock trial is now in session. I will turn it over to you, Judge. Thank you.
Thank you so much. All right, welcome to the plaintiff team Ryegrass and to the defense team Bentgrass. I apologize at the last round I missed a few pretrial things. So just a few housekeeping issues before we begin with our matters. First of all, it's important that there are no coaches or teachers present in the rooms with our participants. They are to perform this task on their own and not be getting assistance from anyone we can't see on camera. If those participants want to observe, they're welcome to do so by utilizing the YouTube live stream. Let's see here. I am to remind the teams that no recesses will be allowed other than the exception of a health emergency. And I would add for any technical difficulties. So if we lose anyone, obviously we'll pause and make sure that we get the necessary parties back. We've clarified with each of the scoring panelists that they have no reason to be biased or concerned about conflicts, so we can move forward there. I am to remind the teams and coaches that any disputes arising out of this competition must be reported in accordance with the competition rules and that their compliance with time requirements will be considered in scoring the individual performances. Let's see here. If I can have the team members hop on, we're going to take a quick oath to ensure that we participate according to the Code of Ethical Conduct. All right, excellent. If you will raise your right hand and state affirmation to the following. Team members, please raise your right hands. Team members, do you promise that the presentation you are about to give will faithfully and truthfully conform to the facts and rules of the mock trial competition?
I do.
Excellent. Thank you, folks. Now, if the witnesses will remain on, we have an additional oath. Witnesses, do you promise that the testimony you are about to give will faithfully and truthfully conform to your witness statements, that you will not add material facts or opinions which are not contained in the case problem, and that you will follow the rules and procedures of the mock trial competition?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. Thank you, folks. All right. How we've been doing things is having the scorekeepers put their video, shut down their video and remain on mute. Then the participating attorney, witness, and the attorney from the opposing team who will handle that witness will remain on camera during the questioning. That helps first with focus and then also with technical bandwidth. So we appreciate compliance with that. Ms. Saldana, is the plaintiff ready to proceed to trial?
Yes, Your Honor.
And Lindquist from Team Bentgrass, are you ready to proceed to trial?
Yes, Your Honor. The defense is ready to proceed.
All right. Any pretrial concerns from either side?
No, Your Honor.
No, Your Honor.
All right. Ms. Saldana, who's going to present your opening statement? I think we just lost your audio. There we go.
Sorry, can you hear me now?
I can.
Okay. I'll be presenting the opening statement.
All right, excellent. Timekeepers, are you ready? Okay. I see a chat there that the Bentgrass timekeeper is ready. Is the Ryegrass timekeeper ready?
Yes, I am.
Excellent. Ms. Saldana, please present your opening statement.
Your Honors and members of the jury, I represent the plaintiff, Dakota Weirs. The plaintiff is suing Lush Fertilizers for being the cause of their illness. We are gathered here today to discuss the tragedy Lush Fertilizers products have caused the plaintiff. Prior to developing non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, Dakota worked outdoors with Haven Landscaping from the age of 14. Dakota was primarily responsible for spreading seed and fertilizer due to the fact that they weren't quite old enough to work the machinery. Because of this debilitating illness, Dakota is unable to do any of the things they did prior to working with fertilizers, such as Lush fertilizers, at their job. In prior years, Dakota participated in many things other than going to work. They had different passions, one in particular being playing the piano, which in fact was the reason they had received a full-ride scholarship to Juilliard, a pristine music school. Sadly, they had to give up on this dream and turn down the scholarship due to the fact that aside from having swollen lymph nodes, having frequent chills and chest pains, they couldn't even sit at the piano long enough because of being constantly fatigued and having shortness of breath. Aside from playing the piano, they chose to help others and were an active member of their community. They volunteered at the local homeless shelter in which they would help serve meals, wash dishes, and try to be helpful for those less fortunate than them. They were also widely active in school settings. They were part of the National Honor Society at their school, as well as part of their student government. They received good grades and enjoyed being with friends. Unfortunately, the plaintiff was put into a horrible position due to the negligence of Lush fertilizers. The plaintiff went through not only physical but emotional hardship due to the lack of concern shown by Lush fertilizers when choosing to not put warning labels on their products. Today you will hear from Carson Durst, who was a scientist for Lush fertilizers, who for years worked on the research and development team for Lush fertilizers. He will testify that not only did Lush fertilizers know the effects of Drufo, but that the CEO of Lush fertilizers, Blake Doncourt, had received an email regarding the recommendations of what to do in order to make their products safe. They will also testify to being in a room where concerns of Drufo being potentially carcinogenic were ignored. Aside from Carson, you will hear from Dr. Casey Rogers. They will testify that Drufo was carcinogenic, who in fact had conducted an experiment that determined that Drufo is carcinogenic and will provide evidence to this. Thus, Lush fertilizers chose to ignore the fact that their product contained possible carcinogenic products and didn't think that it would be smart to advertise it on their labels either. It's not Dakota's fault that Lush fertilizer chose to exclude the entirety of their products within their fertilizer. Dakota is an innocent victim of both this disease and the company. You might ask, why Lush fertilizers? Truth is, the plaintiff had worked with this product at their job with Haven Landscaping and was concerned because of the main ingredient within Lush fertilizers being Drufo being known to be carcinogenic and being a cause of non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. Now, after hearing the evidence, we ask that the court find Lush fertilizers liable and responsible for the development of this horrible disease by the plaintiff. That'll be all.
All right. Thank you very much, Ms. Saldana. On behalf of the defendant.
Your Honor, Finn Vaughn will be presenting our opening statement.
Thank you, Ms. Lindquist. Go right ahead, Mr. Vaughn.
Thank you. Your Honor, opposing counsel, members of the jury, good afternoon, and we appreciate you being here with us today. I represent the defense in this case. Ladies and gentlemen, today you will hear evidence that Drufo is not at all carcinogenic and that Lush is not at all at fault. It was not their fault. Lush did not have anything to do with the non-Hodgkin's lymphoma that Ms. Weirs is suffering from. Ms. Weirs was an employee for Haven Landscaping. In the years that she worked there as a landscaping technician, Ms. Weirs' primary task was spreading seed and fertilizer. He did not exclusively use Lush fertilizer during the many summers of his employment. When he worked, he used to spread fertilizer inside of places such as office buildings and shopping malls, despite the warnings to only use Lush's fertilizer in outside places. Now, even though there is no risk of Drufo being carcinogenic, Lush still instructed that whoever uses their products should follow their safety guidelines, just to be as careful as possible. Ms. Weirs did not take the proper safety precautions when using their fertilizer. She was instructed by her employer to wear long sleeves, pants that cover all of her legs, gloves that cover any exposed skin, an N95 mask or a respirator, all of which she did not wear when they used the fertilizer. After many years of this, she became sick. But I remind you that correlation does not equal causation. Prior to releasing their product, Lush had taken every necessary precaution to make sure that it was not carcinogenic. Ms. Weirs used many different chemicals during her time landscaping and did not take the proper precautions, which is why it was not their fault. Today, you will be hearing from 3 witnesses during this case. One is Blake Doncourt. the CEO of Lush Fertilizer, and he will tell you how he was not aware of any risks associated with Drufo and how Lush found absolutely zero carcinogens in their fertilizer. He will tell you that Lush is committed to environmental and physical safety and would never hide any of their findings from the public. You will also hear from Skylar Weirs, a journalist who discusses how Drufo is good for the environment and not harmful. They will also tell us that because of Drufo's efficacy, confirmed carcinogens do not need to be added to the product. Finally, you will listen to Dr. Devin Williams, the head of Lush's fertilizer research team, who will disprove the idea that Drufo could somehow have caused Miss Weirs' non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, and they will tell you how Drufo is safe. The plaintiff in this case holds the burden of proof. They must prove by preponderance of evidence, which means that it is more likely than not that Lush Fertilizer and Drufo caused Mrs. Weirs' non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. Even if the plaintiff has met that burden, because of jury instruction number 8, if the plaintiff, Dakota Weirs, failed to do something that reasonably careful people would do under the same or similar circumstances to protect themselves from the claimed danger created by the product, then the monetary damages can be reduced by the percent at which Ms. Weirs was at fault. Ms. Weirs got unlucky. She doesn't deserve to have the terrible disease that she does, but it is misguided to blame Drufo and Lush Fertilizer for this tragic misfortune. This product is safe, and it did not contribute to Ms. Weirs' cancer. It wasn't Lush's fault. Once you have been presented with all the evidence of the case, you will find that Lush is not at fault and rule in favor of the defense. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Vaughn. All right, I'll turn now back to the plaintiffs for their first witness.
Your Honor, I would like to call Dakota Weirs to the stand.
Thank you, Ms. Saldana. Do I have the attorney who will be crossing Ms. Weirs?
Yes, that's me.
All right, thank you, Mr. Vaughn. Ms. Saldana, you may begin your examination.
Dakota, please state your name and spell your last name.
Dakota Weirs, Weirs.
Ms. Weirs, have you recently been diagnosed with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma?
Yes, unfortunately, I've been diagnosed with non-Hodgkin lymphoma. My lymph nodes will swell and I get frequent chest chills and pain in my chest, and I can't even sit for long periods of time because it makes me really tired. So, yes.
Let's talk about your employment status and history. Are you currently employed?
No, I can't work because it's too painful and there's no way I could complete a job in my condition.
Now, in years prior, were you employed by Haven Landscaping?
Yes, I was. I worked there since I was 14, and so about 5 or 6 years, mainly working outside, and I just really loved the job.
Okay. Overall, what did your work with Haven Landscaping include?
So I wasn't quite old enough to work any of the big machinery, so I would mostly just spread seed and fertilizer, working with my hands, those kind of things.
Okay. What safety equipment did you use while working outside?
Honestly, I didn't use any. I didn't know. How could I have known that this would have caused cancer? No one else was wearing it. Like, no one was wearing anything specified. So, and it was hot out. Like, if I could go back and change that moment and wear the proper things, I would have, but I didn't know it caused cancer.
How did you find out that you worked with Lush Fertilizer while being employed with Haven Landscaping?
So after a serious bout of depression, I was on the couch, like always now, and I saw a news article about Lush lying about the safety of Drufo and documents being leaked about how Drufo was dangerous. And that got me thinking about how I got my non-Hodgkin lymphoma. And I decided to call my boss, my old boss at Haven Landscaping, and ask them if they had any old bags of Lush around to confirm that's what I was using. And they said they did. And when they looked at it, the thing that was really off-putting was that there wasn't a warning label on the bag. There was nothing saying that this was a dangerous product.
Okay, now let's discuss your life outside of your employment. How have you been an active member of your community?
I was a huge member in my community. I would go and help out at the local homeless shelter and wash dishes or just serve meals, do whatever I could to help out. I was also really involved in school, student government and National Honor Society, and being part of my community was just such a huge part of my life.
Okay, and overall, what have you lost due to developing non-Hodgkin's lymphoma?
Sorry, I've lost a lot. Like I mentioned above, one of the biggest things I've lost was piano. I can't even sit on my piano bench and play anymore because it's just too painful. And I know you probably don't know the exact story behind why I got into playing piano, but the main reason was my grandfather.
Objection, narrative.
Ms. Saldana, your question was about, remind me the question.
Your Honor, I asked, what have you lost due to developing non-Hodgkin's lymphoma?
Okay, and I think you were just getting into talking about, you mentioned you had lost the ability to play piano and we're beginning to discuss where that came from. I'll go ahead and ask you to, I will sustain the objection and ask that you allow Ms. Saldana to ask the questions, okay? Ms. Saldana, your next question.
Your Honor, that'll be all. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Ms. Saldana. Mr. Vaughn, if you would like to cross-examine this witness.
Yes, I would. Miss Weirs, you did work as a landscaping technician for Haven Landscaping.
Yes.
And when you worked as a landscaping technician, you used fertilizer, correct?
Yes, I said that.
A yes or no will suffice. Mr. Weirs, Miss Weirs, can you please direct your attention to Exhibit 1? Now, do you have it in front of you?
Yes.
Does this fairly and accurately show the same label for Lush fertilizer that you remember from when you worked as a landscaper?
Yes.
Your Honor, I would like to admit Exhibit 1 into evidence.
Ms. Saldana, any objection?
No, Your Honor.
Exhibit 1 will be admitted. You may continue, Mr. Vaughn.
In Exhibit 1, there is a safety recommendation that states how clothing that covers exposed skin must be used, correct?
Yes.
And you didn't wear a long sleeve shirt when you used the fertilizer, right?
That's correct.
And when you worked, you also didn't wear long pants?
Yes.
And when you...
Objection, Your Honor. Asked and answered.
Mr. Vaughn, I do believe Ms. Saldana went through this line of questioning. Is there anything you're attempting to clarify?
I'm just attempting to clarify that Ms. Weirs here was aware. It sees now that there were indeed warnings that said that they should be using proper equipment and clothing to keep themselves safe, and they didn't.
All right, why don't you ask those specific questions, Mr. Vaughn?
Okay. In Exhibit 1, doesn't it also recommend the use of a respirator or N95 mask?
Yes, it does. And
when you use the fertilizer, you didn't wear a safety mask or a respirator, right?
No.
And in your time working at Haven Landscaping, you didn't solely use Lush fertilizer, correct?
Correct.
All right. No further questions, Your Honor.
All right, thank you, Mr. Vaughn. Ms. Saldana, do you have any? Oh, we've lost her. There we go. Ms. Saldana, did you have any questions you wanted to ask on redirect?
No, Your Honor.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Weirs, for your testimony today. You'll be dismissed at this time. Ms. Saldana, who's your next witness?
Our next witness will be, sorry, I am trying to pull that up.
Do we have the next attorney from Team Ryegrass?
Yeah,
All right.
I would like to call Dr. Casey Rogers to the stand.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Chambers. Do we have Dr. Rogers? There we go. All right. Welcome to court, Mr. Rogers. And then it looks like we've got Ms. Lindquist. Will you be cross-examining this witness?
Yes, I will be cross-examining this witness.
Excellent. Ms. Chambers, go ahead and begin.
Okay. Please state your full name and spell your last name for the records.
Casey Rogers, Rogers.
And Mr. Rogers, if I can just get you to move that microphone up a bit, you're very quiet. That'll probably help. Thank you so much.
All right, Dr. Rogers, what is your current form of employment?
I'm currently employed at the University of California in Berkeley as a professor in entomology and horticulture.
What's your education background?
I have a PhD in entomology and horticulture from the University of California in Berkeley. I also have a PhD in from CSU in Fort Collins in agricultural.
Objection, Your Honor. This witness is testifying to an incorrect statement. They do not have a PhD from CSU.
All right. Is that a fact outside of the record?
Yes, facts not in evidence.
All right. Mr. Rogers, if you can stick to the facts that were given in the record, please. Ms.
I'm
Chambers.
sorry.
That's all right. Ms. Chambers, your next question.
Okay. Please refer to Exhibit 6. Can you tell the court what this is?
That's my curriculum vitae.
I would like to ask the court to admit Exhibit 6 as evidence.
All right. One moment while I pull that up. I apologize. I have several screens in this courtroom. So if I'm not looking, I'm not ignoring you. I'm just looking at another document. Okay, let's take a look here. I'm looking at exhibit number 6. Counsel, do you see that? Ms. Lindquist?
Yes, I apologize. I do see that document.
All right. Any objection to admission of that document?
Yes, I object on the grounds of hearsay. This is an out-of-court document.
Actually, this is a business document.
All right, Ms. Chambers. So your response to that is that it's a business document?
Yes.
Can you clarify for me?
This should be qualified as a business document, so it should be admitted into evidence.
What business is this regularly utilized in?
It's a curriculum vitae. I mean, it's official records.
Your response, Ms. Lindquist?
Just because this is an official document does not mean that it is not hearsay.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and allow admission of exhibit 6. I don't believe it goes to the truth of the matter asserted. It simply is relevant for the purposes of describing the background of Dr. Rogers. So it will be admitted. Ms. Chambers, please continue.
Thank you, Your Honor. What is your connection to Lush fertilizer products?
I researched the possible harmful effects of Drufel.
Please refer to Exhibit 7. Can you tell the court about this?
That is a list of my current research publications.
And what are your research publications?
Well, there are 6 in total, but only 2 have to do with the Drufel and its effects on the human body.
Objection, Your Honor. Assuming facts not in evidence, this document has not been entered into our court yet.
I think they're just trying to describe the foundation, Ms. Lindquist, so I'll allow it. Ms. Chambers, you may continue.
Your Honor, I would like to ask the court to admit Exhibit 7 as evidence.
All right, any objection, Ms. Lindquist?
No, Your Honor.
It will be admitted. Go ahead, Ms. Chambers.
Your Honor, I would like to ask the court to qualify Dr. Casey Rogers as an expert witness in the field of entomology, horticulture, and effects of Drufo on the human body.
Ms. Lindquist.
Permission to conduct a voir dire examination on the witness's credentials.
Permission given, and if the timekeepers will keep track according to the rules. Go ahead, Ms. Lindquist.
Thank you, Your Honor. Dr. Rogers, you work in entomology,
Yes,
and this is the study of bugs.
that's correct.
And your degrees are in agriculture, chemistry, and entomology.
Yes,
You worked in a chemical company before your previous job,
I have.
and you do have a PhD,
I do. In agriculture and entomology.
but you do not have an MD.
I do not.
You have never been to medical school.
I have not.
None of your degrees give you the right to diagnose medical conditions.
Even though I don't have ND, I have been studying thoroughly.
Thank you.
on-
A yes or no answer will suffice. Thank you.
No,
And you are not a medical doctor.
I am not.
Your Honor, the defense objects to the witness being qualified as an expert in anything relating to the effects of Drufo or other chemicals on the human body. This is not their area of expertise.
All right, thank you, Ms. Lindquist. Ms. Chambers, can you help me understand the basis under Rule 702 for that expertise?
Well, I think Dr. Casey Rogers should be an expert in the effects of Drufo on the human body because he has conducted multiple studies about agricultural chemicals, and 2 of those studies are about Drufo and the human body.
All right. The court will overrule the objection and allow this witness to testify in the 3 areas of expertise as requested. You may proceed, Ms. Chambers.
I would like to move on to Dr. Rogers' research into Drufo. Did
Go
you
right ahead.
studies on Drufo?
Yes, I have.
And how did you conduct your study?
Well, I have 3 separate groups of people. And one group had no contact with Drufo. A second group had occasional contact with Drufo. And the third and final group had almost daily access to Drufo.
And what were the final results of your study?
The final group who had access to Drufo on a daily basis had 10 times more likely chance to have a terminal illness such as cancer. And even the group who only casually used Drufo was 5 times more likely to have cancer.
Thank you, Dr. Rogers. That will be all, Your Honor.
All right, thank you, Ms. Chambers. Ms. Lindquist, your cross.
Yes, thank you, Your Honor.
Mhm.
Hello, Dr. Rogers. To start off, you do work as an employee of UC Berkeley, correct?
Yes,
And you work in the agriculture and entomology department.
I do.
And throughout your career, you have made recommendations to companies, regulatory agencies, and have been involved in litigations, yes?
Yes, I have.
But you have never actually testified in a trial prior to the trial here today.
I have not.
You would like to testify in the future, though,
I would.
and you would like to testify in the future for money, correct?
I would like to testify in the future because this is my life's work and I'm very passionate about it.
The way that you determined that the product of Drufo is unsafe is through a study that you conducted, correct?
Yes,
And the study involved a control group, a group of people with occasional exposure to Drufo, and a group of people who had exposure on a daily basis.
yes,
After completion of the study, you drew the conclusion that there were higher incidences of diseases, including cancer, and other serious health problems in those with high exposure to Drufo.
yes.
However, your study has not been peer reviewed.
Well, the study is more recent. I hadn't had time to fully, it's only been through a couple of years.
So no one else in the scientific community has confirmed your findings.
Not yet.
So your study has no basis in the scientific community currently.
Well, it does from the fact that my other studies also relating to Drufo.
Yes, but this study, the one we are referencing here today, has not been peer reviewed.
It has not.
Thank you. No further questions, Your Honor.
Thank you, Ms. Lindquist. Ms. Chambers, were there any topics you wanted to redirect?
Yes, Your Honor.
Go right ahead.
Dr. Rogers, do you have a college degree?
I do.
How does your degree relate to DRUFO?
Well, I study entomology and agriculture, which implies fertilization or fertilizers.
Objection, Your Honor. Relevance. Entomology is the study of bugs. I do not see how that is relevant to the chemical DRUFO here today.
All right, he can answer the question as he wishes. You can certainly use your witnesses and your evidence to dispute that, but it is a relevant question. Were you finished with your answer, Dr. Rogers?
Yes, I was.
All right, Ms. Chambers, next question.
And do you have scientific background?
I do.
How many studies have you conducted on the effects of DRUFO in the human body?
2 in total.
Thank you, Dr. Rogers. That will be all, Your Honor.
All right, thank you. Dr. Rogers, you're dismissed for today's purposes. Thank you very much for your testimony. Ms. Chambers, your next witness.
That would be Carson Durst. I'm not the attorney.
All right, if we can have Carson Durst appear. And Ms. Vasquez, are you handling this witness?
Yes.
Excellent. I see Carson Durst there. And then Mr. Samper, are you the attorney crossing this witness?
Yes, Your Honor.
Excellent. If you'll begin, Ms. Vasquez.
All right, thank you. Your Honor, the plaintiff calls Carson Durst to the stand.
Go right ahead.
Please say your name and spell your last for the record.
Carson Durst, D-U-R-S-T.
And where did you attend college?
I attended college at Arizona State University with my friend Charles Doncourt.
What did you major in?
I majored in chemical engineering and I graduated with a bachelor's.
And how long have you been working with pesticides or other lawn care products?
Since I was hired at Lush Fertilizer in 2003.
Do you know the Doncourts?
I do.
And what was your relationship with them?
They were like the family I never had. They were great. I played soccer with Charles Doncourt, the Doncourt's oldest child. And we were inseparable, best friends. So there were lots of long car rides together to go to tournaments. Every Sunday night there was dinners together. We spent a lot of time at the lake house together. They were great.
And how long did you work for Lush Fertilizer?
I worked at Lush Fertilizer for 3 years, starting in 2003 and ending in 2006.
Objection, Your Honor. Relevance. I failed to see how long the Mrs. Durst worked at Lush Fertilizer is relevant to the topic at hand of whether or not Lush Fertilizer was negligent.
All right, I'll overrule the objection at this time. Ms. Durst, you may answer. Were you finished?
Yes, I was finished.
Okay, all right. Ms. Vasquez, your next question.
What did you do for Lush Fertilizer?
Well, I was hired as an intern, and then in about 3 months, I was promoted to a product development engineer.
Has your relationship with the Doncourts affected your job?
Well, yes, I was hired by Blake Doncourt, the CEO, but I was more than qualified at the time to have that position. So it's yes and no. My coworkers didn't always like that I worked there because of my relationship with the Doncourts. But
Objection,
as I said,
Your Honor.
Yes, Mr. Sandberg.
Narrative. This witness is going on and the question did not require this much. I would prefer if the opposing counsel would split this question up into separate questions so that the witness can respond to those different questions.
All right, thank you, Mr. Sampera. Ms. Vasquez, would you ask another question?
Yes, Your Honor. Did your never mind, sorry. What did you witness while part of the DRUFO team?
When I first was hired at
Objection,
Lush
Your Honor. That
Yes, Mr.
question
Sampera.
that question is ambiguous. That the question saying, "What did you witness while part of the Drufo team?" could be answered in any way. You could witness many things while I'm part of a team. This answer is very ambiguous and does not have a clear answer.
All right, let's go ahead and see how the witness answers. And if you're concerned about the relevance, you can certainly object to that. I'll overrule the objection. Ms. Durst, you may answer.
When I was first hired at Lush Fertilizer, I was put on a team to test the safety of a bonding agent called Drufo. And in my process of studying that, I was tasked with researching more in depth on the safety.
Did you find a compound in Drufo that may have been carcinogenic in rats?
I did. In part of my study, I found that I found a study in England saying that Drufo could possibly be carcinogenic in rodents, in rats.
Objection, Your Honor. That is hearsay. They're using a study that has not been admitted into evidence.
All right, Mr. Sampera. Ms. Vasquez, your response?
I believe that this is within their qualifications to answer, being that they are here to testify based on their experience at Lush Fertilizer.
Are you going to be following up with questions to Ms. Durst about this particular study?
Not directly.
Okay. All right, the objection will be overruled. You may continue.
And what was the reaction among the employees after the concerns with Drufo possibly being carcinogenic were raised?
Well, I was the rest of the team and I were brought into a conference called by Jerry Langley, and a scientist told us about her concerns for Drufo not only being possibly carcinogenic, but also being linked to non-Hodgkin's lymphoma.
Your Honor.
Hold on just one moment, Ms. Durst. Yes, Mr. Sampera.
That was hearsay. The witness is testifying to something that somebody else said who is not involved in this courtroom right now. That is hearsay.
Ms. Vasquez, do you have any basis for that? Any exception?
Once again, this is related to their experience at Lush Fertilizer. That is a lot, and it is relevant to the case based on this is information regarding the reaction within the company when Drufo was confirmed to be possibly carcinogenic.
All right.
Your Honor, may I respond?
Go ahead.
Opposing counsel, I was not objecting to the relevance. I was merely objecting to the fact that that is hearsay. Your Honor, the witness again was testifying to something that somebody else said who was not involved in this courtroom, and that is hearsay regardless of what the intention of the question was and regardless of how relevant the question was. It is still hearsay.
All right, thank you, Mr. Sampera. I will sustain the objection. Ms. Durst, if you can just focus on testifying to your own knowledge and observations, that would be helpful. Ms. Vasquez, I apologize. I think we interrupted in the middle of an answer. If you want to restate that question, you may.
Okay. Your Honor, the plaintiff would like to enter Exhibit 4 to the stand.
Okay.
Objection, Your Honor.
Well, hold on just a moment, Mr. Sampera. We're not quite there.
Okay.
All right, I've got Exhibit number 4 in front of me. Do you have that, Mr. Sampera?
Yes, Your Honor, I do have Exhibit 4 in front of me right now. I would like to object.
All right, hold on. Ms. Vasquez, why don't you go ahead and lay some foundation for that document?
I was just going to ask Ms. Durst to look at the exhibit and explain to the jury what it is.
This is an email sent by Jerry Langley, a product manager.
And could you please provide some context to this email?
Yes, it was sent out concerning the safety of Drufo and the reinitiation of the in-house study
Objection.
to further test its safety.
Yes, sir. Your objection?
Includes facts not in evidence. The witness's quote is talking about an email and what the email contains, and this email has not yet been admitted into evidence.
All right. She's describing the document for the purposes of laying a foundation so that it can be admitted. I'll allow it. Ms. Durst, were you finished with your answer?
Yes, I was.
Okay. Ms. Vasquez, your next question.
I was just going to ask if I could please admit Exhibit 4 to evidence.
All right. Any objections, Mr. Sampera?
Oh, Your Honor.
The document will be admitted, exhibit number 4, the Jerry Langley email. Ms. Vasquez, next question.
And Mr. Who all was this email sent to?
It was sent to me, Blake Doncourt,
Objection,
and many
Your
other
Honor.
people.
One moment, Mr. Sampera.
Relevance. I don't understand who this email was sent to is relevant to the case at hand and to the question about liability regarding Lush Fertilizer and their product Drufo.
Well, I can certainly see it being relevant of who knew what in the company, so I will allow the witness to answer. Ms. Durst, will you restate your answer? I missed it.
Yes, it was sent to me, Blake Doncourt, and many other people on the product development team.
Thank you. And what was recommended to make Drufo safe?
It was recommended to bake Drufo to get rid of any possibility of it being carcinogenic.
So because Drufo was possibly carcinogenic, what should Lush Fertilizer have done?
They should have baked it.
Objection, Your Honor. Improper lay witness, improper lay test. One sec, sorry, let me find it. Lack of personal knowledge, improper lay opinion. This witness is not an expert and therefore cannot testify to anything anything that they believe someone else should have done because they do not have the required knowledge and expertise in this area to recommend that somebody do something.
Are you arguing that the area of how to treat fertilizers within a product development team is an area of expert knowledge?
Yes, I'm saying that they have no background, no education in anything regarding this, and it is something that they do not have experience in and should therefore not be able to give their opinion on.
All right. Well, Ms. Durst did testify that she's a chemical engineer who got a bachelor's degree from a university and that she had worked in this field since 2003. Ms. Vasquez, do you have a response to the objection?
Being that Ms. Durst does have a bachelor's as a chemical engineer and has been working at Lush Fertilizer, they are aware of how they do have knowledge on how this probably should have been handled. And although they are not being qualified as an expert here, they do, I believe that they should get to answer this question, being that they were immersed in this and have a bachelor's degree on the topic.
All right. And
I could respond.
Just one moment, sir. The question specifically was about what should be done to make Drufo, I suppose, less concerning, and the answer was that it should be baked. I want to make sure, Mr. Sampera, that if you're arguing this should be an area of expert testimony, that you've thought that through for the entirety of the case. Is that
Yes,
your
I have,
argument?
Your Honor. Yes, Your Honor. This witness should not be able to testify as to what should be done to make the product safer unless they are an expert in a certain area.
All right. I will.
And Your Honor, may I respond?
1 minute. I will sustain Mr. Sampera's objections in this area. Ms. Vasquez, do you believe that you can qualify Ms. Durst as an expert solely in this constricted field of what should be done to reduce the carcinogenic effects of a chemical?
I believe that in this very small field of knowledge, they could be qualified as an expert, and especially because according to Rule 701 A and B, this is well within the witness's perception, and they have been surrounded with fertilizers their whole life and have a bachelor's degree in chemical engineering. So,
all right, Mr. Sampera, any response to the move to admit expertise in this limited field?
Yes, you can't create an expert witness. Expert witnesses are only qualified as experts under the rules. Let me pull it up. Under the full case problem. It lists the expert witnesses. You're not allowed to just add another expert who is not previously qualified as an expert.
All right. Looking at the specific rules in the case here, here's what I'm gonna do. Based on the line of objections that were entered into by defense counsel, we have ended up where we have ended up. I'm going to allow it and admit Ms. Durst is an expert on this very limited area. The question has been asked and will be admitted into evidence before the jury that what should be done to reduce the carcinogenic effects of Drufo? The response is bake it. Ms. Vasquez, your next question, please.
Ms. Durst, when did you leave Lush Fertilizer?
I left in 2006.
And what led you to that?
I knew that Lush Fertilizer and I weren't going to last. There was too much talk of me not being qualified for my position because of my relationship with the Don Courts.
And when you left, was there a non-compete agreement signed between you, Lush, and Tara?
There was, but when I was looking for a job, I had no recollection of that.
So why are you speaking out against Drufo?
It's a matter of safety. I don't want another case like Dakota Weirs to happen. I think that Lush Fertilizer needs to be held accountable for their actions. A young girl has had her whole life ruined because of this fertilizer, and I think that could have been prevented if they had just baked it.
Thank you, Ms. Durst. Your Honor, no further questions.
All right, thank you, Ms. Vasquez. Your witness, Mr. Sampera.
Thank you, Your Honor. Allow me, okay. Do you know the Don Courts?
I do.
Okay. You used to play soccer with the Don Court's son, right?
I did.
And you would go over and have dinner at their
Your Honor,
house on Sundays?
objection, relevance.
Your Honor, if I may respond.
Please.
This is relevant into establishing character bias and proving that this character has a close relationship with the Don Court family, and that leads to some bias in this case.
All right, I'll allow it, but let's be mindful of the questions that were already asked. Mr. Sampera, you may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. And you'd go to their lake house in the summer, correct?
I did.
And how long have you known the Don Courts?
I don't know. Maybe
like 20 years, would you say?
25.
20, yeah, okay. Thank you. And who is the CEO of Lush
Your Honor,
Fertilizer?
objection, assuming facts, not evidence.
Is that specifically to the length of time of the relationship?
Yes, Mr. Sampera
Okay.
did not allow Ms. Durst to answer before he had assumed and gave her answer for him.
I apologize. May I speak, Your Honor? I would just like to speak candidly for a minute. I was not trying to assume the answer. I was just trying to help it along. I was not trying to cover anybody else, but I just wanted to provide the information because I know that was a small detail that I've added that it's very easy to slip over. All I was doing was trying to help.
Ms. Durst has agreed she's had that relationship for a significant period of time.
That's all I wanted to prove. Thank you, Your Honor.
All right, go right ahead.
Thank you. Sorry, who is the CEO of Lush Fertilizer?
Blake Doncourt.
Okay. And Blake Doncourt hired you directly out of college.
He did.
And you had no previous job experience in this field.
Nope.
Okay. And you were chosen over more qualified candidates.
Probably.
And you don't have a PhD.
No.
You don't even have a master's degree.
No.
You only have a bachelor's degree.
Yes.
Did you look into a compound in Drufo?
I did.
And your findings of that compound being carcinogenic in rats was never proven. It was only potential.
Yes.
And when the concerns about Drufo being carcinogenic were raised, you didn't have access to the data that was used to determine whether or not it was truly carcinogenic, did you?
No.
Okay, thank you. On to another question. You would receive annual performance reviews from your coworkers and superiors.
I did.
And those reviews were abysmal.
Yes.
Complaints were filed by your supervisors and your coworkers about your job performance.
Your Honor,
Yes.
objection relevance.
Mr. Sampera, what's the relevance of this line of questions?
The relevance of this question is to prove that this witness was not solely qualified for their job. Therefore, they were not solely qualified and they were not capable of answering these questions. And this is to establish the witness does not understand what they're talking about.
So it goes
well
to the
as
credibility of the witness.
credibility of the witness. Yes, Your Honor.
All right, I'll overrule the objection, Ms. Vasquez. You may continue, Mr. Sampera.
Thank you, Your Honor. Did you get fired from Lush Fertilizer?
No.
I'm sorry, could you please, I'm going to restate the question. Could you please restate your answer? Did you get fired from Lush Fertilizer?
No, I quit.
Okay. Do you have access to your witness statement?
I do.
And do you have access to the sworn affidavit? You have access to that, correct?
Sorry, will you repeat that?
You signed the affidavit. Is that correct?
Yes.
And this affidavit was accurate and true. And was accurate and true. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Ms. Durst, I am now going to read you line 137 from your witness statement. When I was fired from Lush Fertilizer in December of 2006, I had already been hired by Tara's Greenery. You wrote that in your witness statement. Is that correct?
Yes.
And you knew that you could change your response on the stand. Is that correct? When I
Yes.
previously asked you this question. And yet you still spoke against your witness statement. Is that correct?
Yes.
You are aware that you directly contradicted your witness statement, which you swore was true. Is that correct?
Multiple times in my witness statement, I said that I had left Lush Fertilizer.
I'm sorry, but I just read you the statement in your affidavit that you were fired from Lush Fertilizer.
Yes.
So you knowingly and willingly contradicted your previous statement.
Yes.
Okay.
Your Honor, objection, argumentative question.
I believe that Mr. Sampera was impeaching her on a prior inconsistent statement. Mr. Sampera, I think you've made your point. Let's move on.
Okay. Thank you. And so now you work for Lush Fertilizer's biggest competitor, Tara's Greenery. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, Mrs. Durst. No further questions, Your Honor.
Thank you, Mr. Sampera. Ms. Vasquez, any redirect?
No, Your Honor.
All right. Thank you so much, Ms. Durst, for your testimony. You're dismissed at this time. Does that conclude the plaintiff's witnesses?
Yes, it does.
All right. Is the plaintiff prepared to rest their case and move on to the defense case in chief?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. If I may have an attorney from the defense. Hello, Mr. Vaughn. If you'll let me know which witness you intend to call first.
I would like to call Blake Doncourt to the stand.
All right. Hello there.
One second, let me turn my light on. It's darker in here than I thought.
We're losing the light. It's getting dark at night.
All right. I
Thank you,
apologize.
Mr.
Sorry.
Doncourt. And then do we have the attorney who will be crossing Mr. Doncourt?
Sorry, I'm trying to turn on my camera. Yes, Your Honor.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Saldana. All right. And if we can just check in with the timekeepers, we've moved on to the defense case in chief. So I think we're starting with new time. Is that correct?
That should be correct. Yes.
All right. You may begin, Mr. Vaughn.
Please state your name and spell your last name.
Good evening. I'm Blake Doncourt, Doncourt.
Now, Blake, what is your profession?
Well, I am the CEO of the company Lush Fertilizer.
How long have you been the CEO for Lush Fertilizer?
I've been the CEO since 2000, I believe, just building the company basically from the ground up.
And what is Lush's primary product?
Well, we can proudly say that our primary product is Lush Fertilizer. Great product to grow green grass indoors and out.
And who do you sell to?
Well, we sell to businesses, governments, even just private individuals. We sell to companies that use the product on these establishments.
And before producing a product, what safety practices are conducted?
Well, really, it goes to every facet of our product. It's what it does to the environment, what goes into it, all that kind of stuff. This is all done through our very esteemed research team.
Tell me more about this illustrious research team. What do they do?
Really, they kind of dive deep into each property of our product, as in the chemicals and all that stuff, and conduct actual research to prove that it's safe for release.
What is your motive to release a safe product?
Well, I myself am an environmentalist, but I'm also a business owner, and I think that factors into my decision. Not only do I want an environment that's safe and healthy, I also know that an unhealthy product is really unhealthy for business too.
Would you release an unsafe product?
No, it would just not be in my ethical and financial motives.
What is Drufo?
Well, Drufo is one of the chemicals we put into our product, Lush Fertilizer. It's a bonding agent.
What did your research team's research on Drufo find?
Well, my research team conducted a lot of research on Drufo and found that there are no carcinogenic risks, no environmental risks to the release of the product.
And so does this mean that Drufo could be linked to non-Hodgkin's lymphoma?
As my research team concluded, it cannot.
So what does that mean for the way that you released your product?
Knowing that the product was safe and didn't contain carcinogenic properties, we moved on to the production and selling phase. We released the product confident that it wouldn't cause any kind of harm.
Was there a warning about Drufo being carcinogenic on your product?
As the research concluded that there was no carcinogenic properties, we just knew it wasn't necessary.
So did you put any warning on your product?
Well, of course, we put a generalized warning. We always want our customers to be safe with our product. That included avoid skin contact, wear certain clothes to protect exposed skin, really just the basic stuff as a precaution.
Now, based on your company's research and role as president of the company, do you believe that Lush Fertilizer was involved in Mr. Weir's illness?
Look, I feel absolutely terrible about this illness. It's so awful and so debilitating, but I can confidently say Lush had no part in it. We had a team that showed that Drufo isn't carcinogenic, and so, of course, it cannot be linked to non-Hodgkin's lymphoma.
Do you know Mr. Durst?
I do know Mr. Durst.
How do you know Mr. Durst?
Well, he was a family friend for a long time, but later I hired him to be a part of my research development team.
And do you know about the email that was provided by Mr. Durst?
Well, I know about it as of today. I didn't know about it beforehand.
So please direct your attention to Exhibit 4. Have you ever seen that email before?
Until today, no.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Doncourt. No further questions at this time.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Vaughn. Ms. Saldana, would you like to cross-examine this witness?
Yes, Your Honor.
Go right ahead.
So you got divorced recently, correct?
Yeah.
Relevance.
Ms. Saldana, what's the relevance of that question?
Your Honor, this goes to financial motivation of the witness.
All right. I'll overrule the objection. You may continue. Please answer, Mr. Doncourt.
I was divorced. Not really relevant to my business practices, but yes, I definitely was divorced.
Your ex-wife's name is Morgan, correct?
Yes.
And you believe that she was a gold digger, right?
I mean,
Objection, relevance.
Ms. Saldana, I'm going to allow you a narrow road here, but let's keep the questions to developing the motive as to his financial status and implications within the company.
Okay, Your Honor.
Mr. Doncor, I believe the question was whether or not you believed her to be a gold digger.
Yeah, I mean, in my personal opinion, she was. She seeked money and prioritized it as a trait.
Ms.
So you
Saldana,
were ordered.
question?
So you were ordered by the judge to pay spousal support every month, correct?
Yeah, it was a part of our agreement.
Okay. Now, you're the CEO of Lush Fertilizer, correct?
Proudly, yes.
Okay. If your product was carcinogenic, it would be very damaging to your company's reputation, correct?
I mean, emphasis on the word if, of course. If it was carcinogenic, it'd be terrible. If it caused people to explode, it would be terrible for business, but these are all possibilities. And we have proof.
Okay, and therefore it would cost you a lot of money, correct?
Yeah, and of course, in theory, that's why we release safe products.
Okay, and you don't bake your products, right?
No, it's not necessary, and our research team found it wasn't necessary. No carcinogenic properties, no need for baking.
Even so, if you were to bake your products, it would cost a lot of money, correct?
We could afford, of course, we could afford to bake the products. It would cost money, but it just wasn't necessary.
Thank you, Your Honor. That will be all.
All right, thank you, Ms. Saldana. Mr. Vaughn, is there any areas you wanted to explore?
No, there's not.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Doncourt, for your testimony here today.
Thank you, Your Honor.
The defense's next witness.
Yes, Your Honor. The defense would like to call Skylar Weirs to the stand.
Thank you, Ms. Lindquist. If we can get Skylar right there, and then the attorney who will be crossing Skylar. Thank you, Ms. Chambers. All right, Ms. Lindquist, you may begin.
Thank you, Your Honor. Hello, Mr. Weirs. To start off, could you please spell your name or state your name, I apologize, and spell your last name for the record?
Skylar Weirs, Weirs.
Thank you. To start off, could you explain your current occupation?
Currently, I'm an investigative journalist, specifically in the realm of agritech and pesticides and fertilizers and whatnot.
Who do you write for?
I write for the Rationalist magazine, which is a science advocacy and education journalist or journal.
Specifically, what does this publication do?
We promote scientific skepticism and resisting the spread of topics such as pseudoscience.
And you write articles.
Correct.
I'm sorry, let me rephrase. What do you do at this publication?
I write a number of different articles, specifically about fertilizers and agritech.
How long would you say you spent researching for such articles?
At least a year, usually. I spend a lot of time.
What kinds of research did you do for these articles?
Typically, I review publications released by different agritech companies, and then I review the different studies and other sources that are referenced within those publications. Additionally, I review the sources or the information maintained by the United States Department of Agriculture and the National Association of State Departments of Agriculture in order to gain an abundance of knowledge about my topics.
What degrees do you have?
I don't have any degrees, but I have a vast wealth of knowledge within my possession about a variety of different things, specifically agritech and DRUFO.
Your Honor, the defense requests that Skylar Weirs be tendered as an expert witness in the chemical DRUFO and modern agritech. According to the pretrial ruling, as a motion to preclude expert testimony, an expert is not required to hold a specific degree or training as determined by Rule 702. However, an expert witness must hold specialized knowledge and provide proof of that knowledge. This has been established for Skylar Weirs, and as such, they should be tendered as an expert witness.
And what area in particular, Ms. Lindquist, will be the expert opinion?
The chemical DRUFO and modern agritech.
All right, Ms. Chambers, your response?
Your Honor, I would like to object with a voir dire.
Go right ahead.
So, Mr. Weirs, you're not a scientist, are you?
No, but I do research. And
Just a
read
yes or no
and write
answer
about
would suffice. Thank you.
Well, no.
You're just a journalist, right?
Yes, I'm a journalist.
Have you ever conducted any studies on Drufo?
No, but there are other people who have, and I've read those studies.
You don't have any scientific background, do you?
Well, I have a lot of scientific background based on my research about scientific topics such as Drufo, pesticides, fertilizers, and the agritech community.
But you don't have a bachelor degree, do you?
No,
Do you have a PhD?
no,
Do you have an MD?
nope,
Do you have any college degree?
no, but I do have a lot of information about agritech.
Just a yes or
and-
no answer would suffice. Thank you.
All right, no.
Your Honor, I would like to object to Mr. Weir's being an expert witness.
Thank you, Ms. Chambers. Your response, Ms. Lindquist.
As I mentioned before, and in the pretrial ruling and in Rule 702, it is not required for an expert to hold a degree. We have already established that Skylar Weirs does not, but as these rules state, they need to hold specialized knowledge, and I have provided proof of that knowledge, and Skylar Weirs has as well.
All right, I think you've established under 702 a basis for expertise in this limited area. Ms. Chambers, if you believe that his opinion testimony begins to go outside of that area, you can certainly object. I will qualify him as an expert in testifying about Drufo in regards to agritech. Ms. Lindquist, you may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Weirs, in regards to modern agritech, what elements are typically used in a fertilizer?
Nitrogen is typically used in a synthetic form.
This nitrogen, what effects could that have on a person?
Oh, really horrible ones. Cancer, reproductive issues, thyroid conditions, nothing good at all.
What was that,
This
Ms.
is
Chambers?
outside I have an objection. This is outside the field of this witness's scope.
All right. The question was about what the effects of those could be. He was not qualified as an expert in that field, so I will sustain the objection. Let's move on to the next question, Ms. Lindquist.
Okay. Nitrogen in a synthetic form, how much of that is usually used in most fertilizers?
Quite a bit. Also, most fertilizers need to be applied 5 to 6 times per year, so a lot of nitrogen is being used.
Let me rephrase. What fertilizers don't need application as often?
Drufo and lush fertilizers.
Drufo and lush fertilizers don't. And how does Drufo work?
Drufo is an incredibly effective bonding agent, so small amounts are needed in order to achieve the desired effect. Additionally, Drufo reduces the solubility of lush fertilizers, so less chemicals are going to be contaminating the environment. And it's a really large leap in the agritech community as a whole.
What other benefits does Drufo have?
Drufo is also an effective pesticide, so other pesticides don't need to be used. And other pesticides typically contain carcinogens such as arsenic and glyphosate.
What does the International Agency for Research on Cancer classify glyphosate and arsenic as?
Arsenic is a carcinogen and glyphosate is a possible carcinogen.
What can carcinogens cause?
They can cause cancer.
And what products are these previously stated carcinogens found in?
Other pesticides and fertilizers.
But what is your twin, Dakota, saying caused their cancer?
Drufo and lush fertilizer.
What definite link does Drufo have to cancer, especially since it has no carcinogens?
None. Honestly, there is no link at all, or no definite link. Drufo makes it safer for people to use fertilizers and pesticides because other carcinogens and other pesticides don't need to be added in order to achieve the desired effect.
Thank you, Mr. Weirs. No further questions, Your Honor.
Thank you, Ms. Lindquist. Ms. Chambers, your witness.
All right. Sorry. Mr. Weirs, you're Dakota's twin, correct?
That is correct.
And isn't it true that you have no scientific degree?
I do not, but I have a
Objection
lot.
asked and answered. We've already covered this.
All right, she's just getting started on her questioning. Ms. Chambers, just be mindful of the questions we've already asked.
Okay, I would like to move on to your connection to Lush Fertilizers. Mr.
Alright.
You wrote in your witness statement, line 81, that the chemical Drufo is a pesticide, correct?
That is correct.
And you also wrote that pesticides are, by definition, poison, right?
That is correct.
Do you or have you ever worked with the Lush Fertilizer Company?
No, I have not.
I'm so sorry to hear about your mother's death, but you wrote that you were cut off financially after her passing, correct?
Objection, relevance. What does the witness's mother passing have to do with the chemical Drufo?
Your Honor,
Ms. Chambers,
permission to argue.
go right ahead.
This is relevant to financial motivation.
Does that go to the credibility of the witness here?
Yes.
All right, I'll allow it. The objection is overruled. Were you finished with your question, Ms. Chambers?
I was.
Will you please
here's the
repeat the
answer.
question?
Yeah. I'm so sorry to hear about your mother's death, but you wrote that you were cut off financially after her passing, correct?
That is essentially correct.
Can you confirm that after the onset of Dakota's illness, your father made plans to support Mr. Weirs financially?
Yes,
And you said that you struggle with gambling, didn't you?
that is true.
And you're in debt because of your gambling problem, correct?
Objection, relevance. What does the witness's gambling have to do with the chemical Drufo and its effects?
Ms. Chambers, where are you going with these questions?
These are still questions about the financial motivation of the witness and credibility.
All right, I'll allow it, but let's move towards that end goal. Mr. Weirs, please answer the question.
Will you please restate the question?
You're in debt because of your gambling problems, aren't you?
I am in some debt from my gambling.
But are you being paid by the defense here?
Yes, but everyone here is being paid. The lawyers, the expert witnesses, really most people in this courtroom today are being paid for being here.
Ladies and gentlemen, I think there's a clear financial motivation for Mr. Weirs to be here. Thank you.
Objection, counsel is testifying.
All right, that statement will be stricken from the jury's recollection. Ms. Chambers, let's stick to asking questions of the witnesses. Thank you. Did you have anything further?
No, thank you. That will be all.
All right, Ms. Lindquist, any redirect?
Yes, Your Honor. Mr. Weirs, does your financial, or I'm sorry, let me rephrase. Do you have any financial motive for testifying here today?
I don't. I'm here to stand behind my research and my work and my articles because that is what this case is about. I'm here to support the evidence that Drufo does not cause cancer.
So you're not here for money?
I am not.
Thank you, Your Honor. No further questions.
Thank you, Ms. Lindquist. Thank you, Mr. Weirs, for your testimony. Does the defense have an additional witness?
Yes, Your Honor. The defense would like to call Dr. Devin Williams to the stand.
All right, while Dr. Williams comes to the stand and the opposing attorney, I'm going to turn on some lights in my courtroom. Just one moment. All right, that's better. And I apologize, I'm in a over 100-year-old courthouse up here and my heating system is quite loud. So if you hear that banging, I apologize. All right, Mr. Sampera, are you handling the direct of this witness?
Yes, Your Honor.
Go right ahead.
Please state your name and spell your last name for the record.
Dr. Devin Williams, Williams.
Thank you. What is your current profession, Dr. Williams?
I lead the research and development labs at Lush Fertilizer and chair the company's ethics committee.
And how long have you been employed at Lush Fertilizer?
About 10 years.
Okay. What degrees and certifications do you currently hold?
I have a BS in toxicology, in MS, in forensics toxicology, and a PhD in pharmacology and toxicology. I also have various certifications in New Mexico, Colorado, Utah, and Wyoming. Those are listed in my CV.
Thank you. Where did you attain these?
At Colorado State University.
Thank you. And so your research includes understanding how the human body is affected by external substances such as fertilizer or alcohol.
Yes, I researched the effects of toxins, and that includes on humans.
Thank you. Could you please take a look at Exhibit 9?
Yes.
Do you have Exhibit 9 pulled up in front of you?
Yes.
Could you please describe to the jury what Exhibit 9 is?
That's my curriculum vitae outlining qualifications.
Thank you. Your Honor, the defense would like to enter Exhibit 9 into evidence.
Any objection, Ms. Vasquez?
No, Your Honor.
Exhibit 9 will be admitted. You may proceed, Mr. Sampera.
Thank you. Your Honor, the defense would also like to qualify Dr. Devin Williams as an expert in toxicology and pathophysiology. According to Rule 702, an expert must have knowledge, expertise, experience, training, or education to be qualified as a witness. Dr. Devin Williams has all of these traits and should thus be qualified as a witness under Rule 702.
And that was in the areas of toxicology and
pathophysiology, Your Honor.
Thank you. Ms. Vasquez.
No objections, Your Honor.
All right, the witness will be admitted in these areas of expertise. You may continue.
Thank you. Were you the chair of Lush Fertilizer's Ethics Committee?
Yes, I am.
Thank you. And just, we're all wondering, like, what makes Drufo so special?
Well, with the overuse of fertilizers, there becomes an issue called eutrophication, where the runoff from fertilizers causes excessive nitrate and nutrient buildup in bodies of water. And this leads to harmful algae blooms that kill fish and harbor dangerous bacteria. And so Drufo is so special in that it binds to the ingredients in the fertilizer and doesn't require it to be applied as much, thus preventing eutrophication at the beginning. It's really revolutionary to the fertilizer industry.
Wow, I had no idea. Thank you so much for explaining. I'm just wondering, has the use of Drufo ever been proven to increase chances of getting non-Hodgkin's lymphoma or any other sort of cancer?
No, the use of Drufo is not correlated with a statistically significant increase in non-Hodgkin's lymphoma.
Okay, well, thank you. What would a valid study need to include in order to prove that Lush fertilizer causes cancer?
A valid study would need to compare something like farm laborers who use fertilizers without Drufo to farm laborers who use fertilizers with Drufo. That's apples to apples.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense to me. Do you know Dr. Casey Rogers?
Yes.
Okay, and are you familiar with Dr. Rogers' study regarding Drufo and the effects of Drufo?
Yes, Dr. Rogers.
Objection relevance?
Your Honor, if I may respond.
Yes.
This is relevant because Dr. Rogers' study discusses the use of Drufo, and we're just trying to clarify it from another scientific point of view. This study is also included in evidence, and this is a party admission, Your Honor.
This is the study that was discussed in the testimony, correct?
Yes.
All right, Ms. Vasquez, I'll overrule the objection. That was evidence admitted through the plaintiff's case, and certainly the defense is allowed to rebut that. Go right ahead, Mr. Sampera.
Okay. Are you familiar with our study regarding Drufo?
Yes, Dr. Rogers' study compares the incidence of non-Hodgkin's lymphoma in farm laborers who use fertilizers with Drufo compared to casual gardeners who use fertilizers with Drufo and people who do neither of those things.
Okay.
This is simply bad science, as farm laborers and gardeners have widely different lifestyles and chemical and environmental exposures than the general population. And so they might simply have an overall higher rate of cancer. It's comparing apples to oranges.
Thank you. And I would just like to clarify a little bit further. Well, in your professional opinion, do you think the study was conducted well?
No.
Okay. If you could just clarify for the jury and everybody else in the courtroom right now, what was wrong with this study? Just in simple terms, layman's terms.
Well, as I mentioned before, it ignores confounding variables. It's possible that farm laborers and gardeners have certain lifestyle choices that increase their risk overall without Drufo impacting that at all. So a truly good study would need to properly control for all these variables and be comparing apples to apples.
Okay.
Your Honor, if I may object, unfair prejudice.
One moment. I think we've got someone without their microphone muted. If you can just double check if you're not one of the 4 people on screen right now to make sure you're muted.
Malachi, please mute.
All right, Ms. Vasquez, I'm sorry, you said you had an objection?
Unfair prejudice, being that Dr. Williams is giving their opinion right now, and although it does fall into their realms of knowledge as an expert, it is not fair for them to give that opinion, being that they do have a prejudice against the plaintiff at this point.
I'm sorry, Your Honor, if I may respond.
Go ahead.
First, there is no evidence that there is any prejudice. Right now, I'm asking this kind doctor about their scientific professional opinion about another study. It does not matter who the study was done by. It does not matter whether or not Dr. Rogers is currently testifying. I am just asking about a professional opinion from a professional about a subject that they are an expert in. This is not prejudicial.
All right, I'll overrule the objection, Ms. Vasquez. The jury will certainly be instructed on the factors they can consider when assessing an individual's credibility while they're testifying. I think your argument goes more to that. You may continue, Mr. Sampera.
Thank you. So was Dr. Rogers' study even peer reviewed?
No, it was not.
Okay. And what does it mean for a study to be peer reviewed?
It means that it was examined by other scientists in their field.
Was this study replicated?
No, it was not.
And why is it important that a study should be replicated before using it as fact?
The history of science is replete with studies that were never able to be duplicated.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Williams, for your time. Your Honor, I have no further questions.
All right, thank you, sir. Ms. Vasquez?
Yes, I would like to perform a cross on Dr. Williams.
Go right ahead.
I apologize, I lost my document one moment. Okay. Dr. Williams, you currently work for Lush Fertilizer, correct?
Yes.
And you are getting paid by Lush Fertilizer.
Yes, that is what it means to be employed by them.
Okay, a yes or no answer would suffice. Thank you. Is it true that Drufo is banned in the EU?
Objection, Your Honor. Relevance. That question has no relevance as to whether or not Drufo causes cancer and or is negligent.
Ms. Vasquez, your response.
Drufo being banned in the EU is relevant because if it is banned in the EU, then it may have effects that are not being recognized right here, or have effects that have been recognized but are not being brought up in this case right now.
All right, I'll overrule. Not right now, Mr. Sampera. I'm going to overrule the objection. You may answer.
Yes, Drufo is banned in the EU, but it's not due to concerns over cancer risk. It's because the EU bureaucrats installed a policy that no new fertilizers products can be allowed that contribute more than incidental nitrate accumulation in lab tests. And now in real life situations, Drufo greatly reduces nitrate accumulation, but the EU bureaucrats are too short-sighted to see that. It's a tragedy.
Is it true that baking the fertilizer would remove any risk of carcinogens being in the final product?
Well, Drufo doesn't cause cancer, so there's no risk of carcinogens being in the final product.
Dr. Williams, a yes or no answer, please. Is it true that baking the fertilizer would remove any risk of carcinogens being in the final product?
Well, that's not in my witness statement.
Objection, Your Honor. That question contained information that was not in my witness's testimony and is also not in my witness's area of expertise, so they have no way of answering that.
All right, it's not capable of properly being extrapolated from the materials.
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, Ms. Vasquez, I'll sustain that. Let's move on.
Okay. As head of toxicology, did you ever raise the concern that Drufo could be potentially carcinogenic?
No, I've never had any concerns about the safety of Drufo.
Okay, thank you, Your Honor. The plaintiff has no further questions.
Thank you, Ms. Vasquez. Mr. Sampera, any redirect?
I just have a brief redirect, Your Honor.
Go ahead.
Dr. Williams, you explained why Drufo was banned in the EU, and I would just like to clarify. Drufo is banned in the EU for nothing to do with carcinogens or causing any sort of cancer or illness in humans.
Yes, Drufo is banned purely out of concerns for nitrate accumulation, however misguided that may be.
Thank you so much, Your Honor. The defense has no further questions. Dr. Williams, thank you for your time.
All right, thank you, Dr. Williams. You're dismissed. Mr. Sampera, any further witnesses?
No, Your Honor.
All right, the defense rests?
Yes, Your Honor, the defense rests.
Excellent, thank you, sir. May I please have the attorneys who will be performing closing arguments? Ms. Lindquist and Ms. Chambers. All right, the plaintiff may proceed with their closing argument.
Okay. Your Honor, members of the jury, my name is Emma Chambers, representing the plaintiff in this case. The life of Dakota Weirs has been flipped upside down by her recent diagnosis of non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. Now Dakota's life will never be the same. She will continue to suffer from this disease for days, weeks, months, and years to come. I think both sides in this case can agree on that. However, we, the plaintiff, are taking this one step further and urging the jury to choose justice. Dakota was a healthy, happy member of society before her prolonged and continued use of Lush fertilizer products containing the known carcinogen Drufo. She was a normal kid, only 20 years old at her life-changing diagnosis. Growing up, she had a love for the piano, fostered by her caring grandpa, who tragically passed away, leaving only memories and a real talent in his granddaughter. Dakota worked in a landscaping company, Haven Landscaping, from the age of 14. It was working in this company that Miss Weirs was exposed to Drufo through Lush fertilizers. My clients and witnesses clearly proved that Lush fertilizers knew their products contained carcinogens before releasing them to the public and did absolutely nothing. Miss Dakota Weirs herself has gone through the trouble to be here today and represent the victims of this dangerous chemical. Dr. Casey Rogers, who is a real scientist, conducted a study which found possible negative health effects to those with exposure to Drufo, including the onset of non-Hodgkin lymphoma. Does this sound familiar? Carson Durst testified to the fact that there is evidence of Drufo being carcinogenic in rats, and that the company refused to bake the product. Meanwhile, Blake Doncourt is the chief executive of Lush Fertilizers. Think about this. They want what's best for the company, what will give them the most money. Skylar Weirs, the expert witness, has absolutely no scientific degree, not even a bachelor degree in college. They were hired to write about the benefits of Drufo on a website, only researching the good things about it. Now they're here testifying against their own blood twin, letting greed consume them. Compare and contrast both sides of this case. It's clear that the plaintiff has more qualified and trustworthy witnesses. Dr. Devin Williams specialized in the environmental effects of Drufo. They are clearly a supporter of Drufo because of the less harmful effects on the environment, letting this cloud the judgment of possible impacts of the dangerous chemical. All of the witnesses in the defense failed to address the concerns voiced by Carson Durst about baking the product. Ladies and gentlemen, this case isn't a matter of who has more evidence. The plaintiff has all the evidence. Dakota Weirs went to work in the scorching heat. It's only natural for her to dress for comfort. How was she supposed to know that not wearing an obstructive mask and heavy, long-sleeved clothes would ruin her life? When Lush Fertilizer sent products containing Drufo to the market, they knew there was a risk factor. If a product requires users to take extensive precautions that could be prevented just to use it, that product should not exist. It's only common sense that someone would make a mistake eventually, not knowing the true dangers of this product. This time it was Miss Dakota. If this isn't fixed, it could happen to anyone again. It isn't fair to Dakota that she should suffer for possible years to come for one mistake. The thing is, Dakota wasn't a criminal. She's a normal citizen just like us. She shouldn't be punished for the irresponsible mistakes of this company. If it hadn't been for this rushed and money-driven decision, Dakota Weirs could still be continuing with her normal life. We, the plaintiffs, are all mourning the loss of this amazing member of society. Because of her illness, Dakota has had to put a pause on her whole life. She's had to stop volunteering at the homeless shelter, as well as playing the piano, which was very dear to her. Doesn't she deserve better? It's too late now to reverse the devastating effects this disease has had on Miss Weirs. There's still time to make a change. This scenario doesn't have to happen to anyone else. While winning this case will never reverse the havoc that this disease has wreaked on her life, it will give an ill woman peace of mind. If the jury sides with the plaintiff in this case, further damage could be prevented and justice could be served to Dakota Weirs, the victim of a money-hungry, careless company. Thank you, Your Honor. That's all that needs to be said.
Thank you, Ms. Chambers. Ms. Lindquist, will give the defense the last word here. Your closing argument, please.
Thank you, Your Honor. Your Honor, opposing counsel and members of the jury, good evening and thank you for your time here today. It wasn't their fault. What happened to Dakota Weirs is a tragedy. Everyone has heard the toll that non-Hodgkin lymphoma has taken on their life, how their dream of playing piano came crashing down. We empathize with Dakota and understand how difficult this is, but it was not the fault of Lush Fertilizers or the chemical Drufo. As an employee of Haven Landscaping, Dakota was exposed to many different chemicals. This company didn't take any of the proper safety precautions or instruct their employees to do so. Drufo was not the only chemical Dakota was exposed to, and it wasn't the chemical that caused their cancer. The plaintiff in this case holds the burden of proof. They must prove that it was more likely than not that Dakota Weirs' cancer was caused by Drufo and that Lush Fertilizers willingly held back safety information regarding the possible harmful effects of Drufo. I want to remind you as our trial comes to an end that if you find it even a little bit more likely that Drufo did not cause Dakota's cancer, or that Dakota could have been at fault by not wearing the gear that was recommended, you must rule in favor of the defense. Throughout the course of this trial, you have heard evidence from both sides of the case, all arguing the same question. Did Drufo cause Dakota's cancer? Let me refresh your memory. Blake Doncourt, the CEO of Lush Fertilizers, told us that Lush is committed to environmental and personal safety and would never endanger the lives of other human beings with their product. They ran countless tests, and all of them said the same thing. It is safe, effective, and definitely non-carcinogenic. There was also no evidence whatsoever to suggest that anything in Drufo could cause harm to anyone. You also heard from Skylar Weirs, an investigative journalist and Dakota's twin. They told us about how Drufo helps reduce the nitrogen that goes into our lakes, our rivers, and our oceans. How because it is so effective, there is no need to add products like glyphosate or arsenic, which are confirmed carcinogenic products. Finally, you heard from Dr. Devin Williams, the leader of the Toxicology Research and Development Labs at Lush Fertilizers, who stated that Drufo has no link to non-Hodgkin lymphoma or any other cancer for that matter. They also criticized Dr. Rogers' study, saying that if you study any large group of people, some will get cancer, exposed to products or not. Dr. Rogers, the plaintiff's hired expert, and the first big flaw in their case. Dr. Rogers' study, the base that this case is built on, says that there is a correlation between Drufo and cancer. But what the plaintiff tried to avoid is that this study has never been peer-reviewed, meaning the group of their peers has not read or evaluated this study for accuracy. Dr. Rogers also has a huge financial motive for saying what the plaintiff wants them to say, including stating in their own words. This will be the first time I've ever had to testify as an expert witness. I'm hoping, however, that it will not be the last. Carson Durst, an ex-employee of Lush, testified that the company knew their product was unsafe and didn't do anything about it. However, they lied on the stand, even after being told that they could change their answer and told our court that they quit. But they didn't quit, they were fired. This email that the plaintiff keeps bringing up, they're proof that Lush knew the product was carcinogenic and didn't bake it anyway. But how can an email like this exist if it was not anywhere in Lush's system? It can't be, because Carson Durst, an angry ex-employee, manufactured that email. We know that Carson will lie, and if they can lie about being fired, they can lie about an email. He knew the product was safe. We all know the product is safe, but Carson couldn't let a company that fired him succeed. Drufo is safe. It is a safe, effective chemical that is used by a company that is committed to keeping their products environmentally friendly and ensuring that it won't harm anyone. Drufo contains no carcinogens. There's no need for a warning label or of its possible effects because there are none. We are deeply and truly sorry for what has happened to Dakota, but this tragedy is not the fault of Lush Fertilizers or Drufo. It wasn't Lush's fault. It wasn't their fault. It wasn't their fault. It wasn't their fault. It was not Lush's fault. And with that, we ask that you rule in favor of the defense and uphold your commitment to the truth. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, Ms. Lindquist. That will conclude the presentation of this case, and it will be now sent to the jury for a verdict. Thank you very much to our participants. All right, there. Do we have just a few more minutes or? Okay.
You absolutely have a few more minutes.
If our scorekeepers would like to turn their videos and mics on and just introduce yourselves, I think that's always helpful for the students to know who will be evaluating them. And I know we're over time, so I don't want to take up too much of our volunteers' time. We really appreciate you being here. If you don't mind just taking a few more minutes and chatting with our students. Would you like to introduce yourself? Start with Mr. Reinhardt.
Hello, everyone. My name is Sean Reinhardt. I'm currently an assistant city attorney for the city of Greeley. My primary role is the police legal advisor. I have been a prosecutor. I've been a law clerk. I've been practicing for almost 17 years. It was truly an honor to listen to you guys. I really enjoyed it. You guys did a phenomenal job. I know we're not supposed to give tons of details and hints and stuff like that. But the one thing I would say is you guys did a great job of making some points and I'm not going to say full aha moments, but when you've made a great point, it's okay to let that point go and move on. The juries are really, really intelligent. And as a young trial attorney, I struggled to kind of understand that and realize that. But as you kind of progress and those types of things, you'll realize that juries are going to pick it up. They're going to get it. So don't try to nail that point down so much that you've actually dented the wood. But anyways, you guys have done a great job. The only thing I can tell you is you guys are a lot better at this than I ever was. I never even took part in this. I was afraid of speech. I was afraid of debate. I was nervous, and I turned out to be a trial attorney. So congratulations to you guys. It's fantastic work. And all I can say is if you want to get better at this, just put the miles behind you. That is the best way to do it, is to get the experience, reach out, ask for help. And I will tell you, it can seem intimidating, but the legal community in Northern Colorado is absolutely amazing. If this is something that truly interests you, reach out to your coaches, reach out to them. They'll find somebody that works in the area that maybe you're interested in. And every one of us will go out of our way to help you or include you or show you the ropes. So thank you for letting me spend my Friday with you, and I appreciate it.
Thanks so much, Mr. Reinhardt. Anyone else from our scorekeeper team?
I'll speak. I'm Din Tuttle. I am currently a senior judge. I was a district court magistrate, district court judge for a long time, and public defender before that. And whenever I do this, I'm always just blown away. You guys, I know how much work this is. I know you've done a lot of work, and it shows. And I know it's sort of probably scary to think that you're going to get, scored on for 4 months worth, or how many months you've been working on this for this one thing, and you all did a really good job. And I can only echo what Sean just said, is just do it. I would love to see every one of you walk out today thinking, okay, this is the beginning. This was a really fun thing to do. I loved being a trial attorney. It was the greatest thing ever. And so I hope you all follow up on it. It's kick-ass fun.
Thanks so much.
My name is Mitch Tacey, and I'm a family law attorney, and I practice here in Northern Colorado. I would agree. I thought everybody did a fantastic job. You know what? And I do trials, and one of the keys to my work is preparation. And I can see that you did a lot of hard work getting ready for today, and that's really obvious. And so I want to compliment you on that. I want to compliment you on your bravery. And I thought you all did a great job. So please keep at it, and great job.
Thanks so much, Mitch.
I also agree that it was, I was just inspired by the amount of hard work that you put into all of the preparation, to the practice, to not getting flustered. It was, and there were definitely some parts where, somebody wasn't saying something that you expected them to say, or went in a different direction, or there was a ruling you weren't expecting. And I really appreciated how everybody still collected themselves and were able to move on and continue to hit their next point, which is a really hard skill to do. So congratulations. This was an amazing mock trial, and I am impressed with everybody's litigation skills. So good job.
Thanks so much, Ms. Stewart. All right, participants. Well, thank you so much. I know you've had a really long day and lots of long work leading up to this. I think you all did an excellent job, and I look forward to seeing how the rounds play out and who advances where and in what ranking. So congratulations. I wish you all the best in the next rounds and moving on from there. Again, I'm the presiding county court judge up here in Jackson County. We have our county court docket on Tuesdays. If anyone ever wants to come see our beautiful courthouse and observe court, we'd love to have you. I'll send it back to you. Any other details they need to know?
Only that right before we end this, to remind everyone that the next round tomorrow morning is at 10 a.m. We will get the scores all tabulated here this evening. The next matchup should be posted this evening as well. I'm not sure when. I think you're the first trial courtroom to finish. So that gives you some indication of how many more we need to wait for before we can run the matching. But they'll be up this evening. And then we'll see everyone back hopefully before 10 so that we can start on time. Thank you all.
Thanks so much. Good luck, everyone.
Thank you guys for volunteering your time to help us out with all this. We really appreciate it.
Oh, you're very welcome.
Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you so
guys.
much.
Take care.
Bye.
All right, scorekeepers, make sure you get those scorecards submitted and make sure you include the categories. I think they're unique to this tournament.